So, Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. It is Sunday, June 22nd, a little after 11 a.m., and we'll start off with questions. Uh, any questions about what we spoke about yesterday? Because I, I got off thinking we weren't done. I got off feeling anyway that we weren't done yesterday. Uh, Yesterday, we started off with our first question and Evelyn asking about mental illness, and it got pretty real. We were got some really intimate discussion, I think, and some very uh, insightful information there from everybody who spoke, and I thought it was very worthwhile. Um, there was one thing though. I thought that Rainier made some very valid points, and I don't know. Rainier, are you on right now? Okay. She made some very valid points that I had hoped that someone would comment on. Uh, some of the things she talked about, learning from her autistic kids and learning from her kids, and the things with the school. Wanting to put kids in certain categories. I thought all those are valid things that need to come out, things that she has learned and from being with her kids and all good stuff that I thought we could talk about a little bit more. But anyone else, any questions or comments on our conversation yesterday? Anything anybody want to share?
Yeah, Grand Rising, everyone. This is GC in Philly. Ron, I had the opportunity of looking at, the podcast.
Uh-huh.
Again, I was truly, very moved with regards to the conversation and the discussion. And what I wanted to mention was that looking at spiritual health is our greatest wealth. And that's just a little, mantra or something that I, constantly
Mm-hmm.
affirm to myself because we know that health is our greatest wealth. And so when we talk about mental illness, again, what gives us that reassurance to know that we can reach out or we can
Yeah.
communicate in that way that we're able to at least go back to our foundation to realize the importance of whatever we may have experienced, that may seem to be division or create those mental challenges, that we can
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the foundation that our spiritual health is our greatest wealth in that way that we can continue to build on that. So I just wanted to share that thought just as a means of watching the podcast and to
Yeah.
appreciate what was said. I'm done, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, JC. Uh, you're exactly right. It was very, very timely discussion and uh, very real, very, very real. And so I don't know. I just like I said, I kind of had the feeling that we weren't done yet. That's why I came back here today. Uh, anyone else? We're talking about mental illness based on what we discussed on yesterday.
Hey, Mom, this is
family.
I
I
yield.
yield.
No, you go ahead.
No,
I
go
yield.
ahead, Val.
Okay,
Val, go ahead. I yield.
My question is the voices, because some people say that they're hearing. Some people talk about how they hear voices in their heads, and I know, and we all hear these voices. My thing is, one, who are these voices? Two, why are there so many of them? Well, I mean, is it because of the type of world that because of the world that we live in?
Okay, everyone. New question on the floor. I apologize, my phone going off. Uh, New question on the floor, guys. The voices. I'll start it off, Val, if hopefully somebody will help me out here. All of it stems from us. There is a book out that we've had for years. Uh, you used to hear me talk about this guy who talked about the Aramaic Jesus, the quotes that were attributed to Jesus. He did some writings on that, and his name was Douglas Klotz was his last name. And he constantly talked about the community that is within you, that we are made up of very, very complex uh, spiritual beings as humans, and we don't recognize who we are, the mindful things, the spiritual things, and the egos, and all those things that come together inside of us. So the voices are all a part of us. And and that's the beauty in it, and it is also the thing that can be disturbing to us as well, getting those voices under control. And I like the candidness of what Nick said yesterday, talked about how he tried to handle things. That kind of helped me out, because my as I sort of got into it, didn't get into detail, mine are not always so manageable. I've had times I'd have to go for a walk, or what has helped me a lot is always coming back to gratitude, things that I'm thankful for. But the way I see it, the voices are all a part of us, and each and every one of us has a different, as different as we are. We have different way of approaching things, and those voices can be stronger in some aspects of us than others. So. Anybody want to help me with that though? Val asked about the voices in our heads.
Hey, Ron, I can, you know, put a pin in that stuff. You ever watched the Star Trek movie that comes on TV, and they be playing the part about the Borg, and the Borg don't think like regular common people. All they, everyone in the Borg, it's a collective hide. So that means everybody hear each other, and everybody
Mm-hmm.
works as one. So that's how I see it.
Okay. I have to admit, Charles, I've never been a Trekkie, so I don't remember those, but uh I kind of get the gist of what you're saying. Um,
This is
Ron,
Vernell.
this is Evelyn. I yield. Go ahead, B. I yield.
Um, in my therapy counseling, I've learned that there's times I'm channeling the energy of my father with my
uh-huh.
attitudes and thoughts. Sometimes it's my mom. Um, and sometimes it's just what I've learned from different members in my family. I'm not always able, like sometimes I know it's something my grandmother instilled in me,
Yeah,
and something will come out. And sometimes in talking about them, it's hard to discover who all of them are. But what I've learned between that and with faith is that I feel like they're my ancestors, those I know and I don't know. But for the most part, I can recognize my mom and my dad. And I guess because those were the two strongest adults. Um, and I can accept that some of the time it's my own. I've come to accept that sometimes my own scrambling of different experiences that I have to learn to either put in a box or put on a shelf. So sometimes I think that's how I hear or sense the voices in me.
yeah. That's interesting what you just said, Emil. are we supposed to put them on a shelf? Are we supposed to turn this energy into something, or do we just move past it? And that's a question. I don't have the answer to that.
For me, it depends on if it's a I'm gonna call it an uncontrollable. I'm feeling like I didn't give it any time to settle down. I think what Kathy calls it, where she'll sit with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm angry or upset about something or I don't understand why, I have to put it on that shelf or put it in a box till I can come
Ah,
back
okay, I
and
got
stew
you.
it.
I see what you're saying now. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else? What are you
Okay,
doing?
Ron, I think it's.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I will say what I got to say, and I'm a yield because I know there are others who have a lot they want to share as well. But anyway, I hope we have some counselors on the line because we all need healing. To Charles, Charles, I want you to know you're my big brother now. I have other brothers, older brothers, but I have considered you as one of my big brothers now. And I know if I need you and Thelma, I know where you guys, I can get in touch with you guys. And I appreciate you sharing what you did yesterday. It was heartfelt, and I cried with you after we got off the phone and while we were on the phone. Raina made me realize that our children are our teachers.
Yeah.
Because we've missed a lot, so they are our teachers. And I realized that we all have been touched by mental illness. I appreciate what Kathy, Audrey, everyone said yesterday. It was a learning session that we had, and I'm grateful for everybody who is part of the faith family. But that's all I wanted to say. Hopefully others will share, because when you want help, you don't mind sharing or being transparent. Some people don't mind telling, their side of the story. But anyway, and then there are those who learn just by listening and are healed just by listening. But I just want to put that out there, and thank you, Ron, for facilitating. And that's all I want to say. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hey, everybody, this is Audrey.
Hey,
I just wanted to say that I really did appreciate what you said yesterday, Charles. And I see you because a lot of us have things that we hold inside that makes us eventually hear voices. And it made me think about that scripture that says, don't forsake assembling yourselves together so that you can exhort each other, you can lift each other up, encourage each other. But I think we were talking about that scripture a long time ago, and one of the other conclusions we had was that it also speaks to each of us personally in terms of each of us not forsaking assembling ourselves together, meaning our own personal self, because it does take that work of looking internally, of praying, of meditation, of talking, all of that it takes to really assemble yourself together. Because yes, there are so many voices in our heads, voices from growing up, grandmothers, grandfathers, parents, brothers and sisters, friends, teachers. There are so many voices in our heads. But in it all, you still have to find you. So don't forsake the work of assembling yourself together. And as Nick was saying yesterday, we can do that through our own reflection, our own meditation, our own getting into nature so that we can kind of calm other voices down so that we find ourselves. And that's the work, to find yourself. When you find yourself, you find God. Thanks.
Thank you. And Val, I like her answer. I think that speaks to what you were asking, does it not?
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Beautifully said. Anyone else? Um, as we say all the time here, putting things out in the macro and being in rhythm with the universe and putting things out there so that others can have something to grasp when they may feel hopeless or need answers. And that's the value of what we are doing and try to do when we assemble like this. We I really think what Rainier said yesterday really got my attention, and talking about the children and as Charles said yesterday and Audrey just said today, a lot of stuff that we deal with stem from our childhoods. So when she started talking about her children, I thought about me and my childhood and my relationship with my parents and whatnot. I think she said a mouthful, and unfortunately, if anybody knows me, I can't remember anything. But she said a lot of stuff yesterday, and uh, I just want to kind of put it out there, just the relationship we have with our children, and if you think about this, um, you think about all the relationships you have, everybody who's important to you, and maybe people that maybe are not that important to you. But if you take away relationships, if you take away people, why are we here? What's the use in being here? It doesn't matter if you sit on a $200 sofa or a $2,000 sofa, or drive a $10,000 automobile or $100,000 automobile. It's all about the relationships. It's all about people, and the rest of this stuff is just props for us to live by, things to distract us. So the portion about the children and the, the things that may have occurred within us when we were children, to me, really got my attention, extremely important. So maybe at some point we can go back to looking at that. But anyway, anybody else, since Rainey is not on the phone, uh, anyone else has anything they'd like to add?
I was just going to say that um, I can concur as well that a lot of what I've learned, especially once as my kids started becoming young adults,
Mm-hmm.
them pushing back. So when they were younger, they didn't ask a lot of questions. They just kind of did. But as they got older, they started, questioning more, why, if people act a certain way outside of the home and then inside of the home they're this way, what makes it so important to present that way outside of the home as opposed to the way you present in the home. And then also just the generation that we raised have questions, and what our generation, the questions are considered disrespectful. And I think Kathy and I talked about this yesterday. So we were just supposed to do what we're told, don't ask any questions. That was the world that I grew up in. And so when they do it and they say, no, I don't agree with that, it's like, well, no, we might give them the grace and say, well, okay, that's fine. We can agree to disagree, but they want to see action. How is what you're saying consistent with, what we're being taught at church, and how you live outside the home and how you live inside the home? And I think that is probably, and they don't just give respect. You have to earn it. And that's what we taught them. If you say you have to earn people's trust and respect, why should I just give it to you freely without you earning it? For us, we just gave it because that was how we were raised. But for them, they're pretty black and white about those kinds of things. So I do, and then listening to others, people will give a lot of thoughts and advice, because I, as a therapist, I, when people come to me, I try not to read or push out the information that I've been given, and just allow my own opinions, because it does kind of jade your thoughts about the person before they have an opportunity to present. But even when I have the information on the front end, I set it aside and allow them to share their truth. And because all of that other people's perception also impacts what those voices that we hear in our heads about who we are and what we do. And when we talk, I had a little guy to call the other night, and he said that he hated his life. He was only 20. He hated his life. He lives in rural Kentucky. He wants to be famous. He's unhappy with his partner because his partner isn't famous. His partner isn't an influencer. And when I'd ask, well, where did all these expectations come from? He's like, well, it's from all the people that, I'm connected with. And I said, so you mean in Kentucky or what? And he said, on social media. I said, well, are these people you know personally? And he said, well, no. I said, okay. So I didn't try to change that, but it gave some context to why those voices in his head are so strong. And that's probably, and I shared, well, maybe you want to consider getting into counseling and kind of talking about some goals that you can set for yourself that you feel like you can accomplish on the short term and the long term. So that's without taking away what he has, because if I take that away and not put something else there, and I only have, 30 minutes to an hour talking to him, that's what, a lot of his is more external. where the expectations for himself are coming from rather than internal. So I just wanted to share those thoughts.
I'm sorry, I was talking and I was on mute. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. You bring up something interesting, though. Those two worlds do blend, what is internal and what's external, because what you were explaining is how he interprets what he has heard online or seen online. His interpretation of it is from his internal world. And that's what kind of gets most of us in trouble, I think. Am I right?
Yes.
So, very candid discussion, and I love this, and I think, again, it's very necessary, not only therapeutic for us on the phone, but I think as we have already stated, we put things out there for others to grasp and hopefully find meaning in. Uh, and one of the things that I gather from this that is very, very important is do not think that you are isolated because you hear voices or that you battle with yourself internally. It sounds like this is a very quote unquote normal thing. This is part of the human experience. So uh, how we deal with it, I think, is collectively as we're doing now and even individually. And we do that by settling and as Audrey said, finding our own voice, finding who we are and putting everything in perspective. I had an experience this morning. I got up and I don't normally do this, but I was getting ready to go to the gym and I cut the TV on and I saw where the US had delivered an abstract to Iran and they hit three targets that they were trying to target Iran's nuclear bases, I guess, or nuclear facilities. And Trump came out with a very stern warning about do not try to retaliate. And I got to admit, I felt some kind of way. You know, I always the bullying and the picking of sides and I caught myself. I took a deep breath and I caught myself because that something that simple can send me into a spiral and I had to catch myself and say, you know what, I'm not gonna walk out this door with that on my mind and feeling that way. Just relax. All of this must happen. And it brought me to a question, which is I want to share with you. Are the righteous, do, do the righteous have a responsibility in the timing of things? Meaning, are all these things happening because we're not ready? When we get to a place where we can balance ourselves, and I don't mean when the voices stop, but when we learn to deal with it, when we recognize our own voice and can put these things in perspective, maybe faster, or maybe we need to have these conversations a little more often. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do we have a direct correlation, I guess, as to how these things happen and the timeliness of them as far as any type of solutions?
Yes, yes, and yes. This is Barbara.
Hey, Barbara.
We're also connected to anything and everything we think, that we say and we do affects something else. And all of this is happening not necessarily because we aren't ready. It is happening because we are ready.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean that we've arrived. It means that we are growing through all of this at the same time we are going through it. In other words, the world depends on us, whether it knows it or not, to do something similar to what you did just this morning. You made a decision to acted on your thought that I'm not going to walk out here thinking all of this. And so you reordered your thoughts. That's what we do, even when things look their worst, because we know who we are and whose we are. We have that power to reorder our thoughts, which, yes, indeed, directly impacts what can happen. And so I've been listening to everybody. My contention is that you're mentally ill. I'm mentally ill if I'm not connected and know who I am. That's bottom line. I'm mentally ill. I depend on my mind and my thoughts about materialistic physical things. And that just bombards me with questions and voices. And the more that I am disconnected, the more that I perceive that I'm not a part of something greater, some spiritual entity that created me, the more that I think that I'm not, the more unholy thoughts, unholy voices, unholy actions, the more those things affect me. And so,
Yes.
to answer your question again, yes, indeed, all of these things are happening, but reframe that. It is because of the fact that we are ready. We are ready to intervene, to intercede, to bridge the gap, if you will, for people who don't have that connection, who don't know who they are yet. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not still mentally ill in some ways, because, you know, it means that I've got to tap that down. I've got to remind myself. Why are you letting that upset you?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a choice. You can choose to let that upset you, or you can choose to dominate that thought. And that's when I reel myself back in, just like you did. So, those are just some of my thoughts and my contention that, yeah, we're all mentally ill until we begin that internal journey of understanding and knowing who we are. And we're still mentally ill to some extent until we continue to grow through all of that stuff. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Very insightful. Anyone else? Thank you, Barb.
Hey, Ron, I have a question, but it goes to Monique's question when she was talking. The question is,
Can I hold you, hey, Charles, can I hold you 1 second? Hold your thought. GC was going to address something that Barb just said. Let me go to him first, and I'll come back to you and what Monique's question is. Okay, hold your thought for just a second, please.
Yeah, thank you, Ron.
all right,
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate you yielding. In terms of what Barbara said, I think that, again, to be able to appreciate self-care is so essential. You know, working, you know, in social service, you know, being involved, you know, in administration, you know, I found myself being in a situation where I'm so-called looked at to be a leader. But what I realized is that I needed to take time to appreciate my health. And so I met with my doctor, and you know, I expressed myself in terms of just how I felt and where I am. And so she recommended a therapist. You know, now in the past, hey, look, I don't think I need to see no therapist. I don't think I need to sit down and talk with someone with regards to how I felt. But what I come to realize, she said, you know, again, George, you don't work, you know, years helping people, but you know, it's important that you made the decision that you did to want to see a therapist, because I realized the importance of self-care. And Ron, to be still and to be able to, you know, look at it holistically, it gave me time to meditate. It gave me time to do some personal things that was important for my self-care. And upon doing that, I realize now why that is so essential, because we can get caught up in the ways of the world. We can get caught up in terms of what other people recommendations are in terms of what you should do. And I think it's important to listen, but I think it's also important, as you say, and we talk about knowing thyself. It gave me the appreciation to be able to look at scriptures, or it gave me the importance of being able to appreciate our fellowship. And I'm just want to lastly say, I think what Barbara and Audrey spoke about in terms of, Audrey, when you mentioned about being in prayer, being in fellowship, being able to listen to the teachings of the Holy Spirit, or in terms of who we are, Elohim. And that was actually from Acts, I think the 2nd chapter, verse 42. But those are things that bring healing when we're able to come together like this. So I just wanted to share those thoughts in terms of what Bob was saying, but self-care is essential. And I just wanted to share those thoughts. I'm done.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Chuck, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
One of her questions, she had said almost in the end of her talking, she was saying that when you help him, I might not phrase it like you said, when she helped him or whoever she's talking with, she helped him to realize some things, and then when she, help him clean his I'm gonna say house, or like he cleaning a house. She helped him clean the thoughts that he have in his mind that is making him think the way he thinks. And then she said she put furniture back in, but the furniture don't go back in the same spot. It takes a spiritual person to rearrange it, help him to rearrange it, and telling him what is being rearranged for. So I know that's what the Bible said. When you do clean the house, something got to go back in there, and you don't want what was in there first to come back stronger. So I know she helped him to rearrange the furniture in the home. So talk to me about that.
Yes, Charles, you're exactly right. And it kind of goes back to what was said earlier about reframing what is realistic, what is your own, this is what I feel like my purpose is in life, and not so much allowing society and social media to kind of frame that for you. And that has to come internally. So most what he's putting in was more external, and what he probably needs to work on. And he's probably going to go into, therapy with the goal of, I want to become famous and I want to hang around famous friends. So that will might start out being his goal, but as time progresses, hopefully, as he understands the importance of, self-care and, what it means to, positive self-talk and being real intentional when those thoughts come in our head, I'm worthless, or because that's some of the stuff he was saying, because I haven't accomplished. And a lot of us say that. And then we have this, imposter syndrome, a lot of us that, I don't really, I don't know as much as people think I know, and I just should, but self-care is so, so, so important, as was brought out. And we all have to work on our mental health just like we do our physical health. Our spiritual health has to be where those two things, definitely rank very high. And we have to really give attention to that. I don't know if that answers your question, Charles.
It did, because when things not going right in everyday life, or with you in your meaning with everyday life, it make you sit down and start questioning yourself, start thinking about the things that happened to you, or things that it comes back up, or it lays down for a while, and then it comes back up. You be wanting that to be removed, and then when you remove that, you got to place it with something, because not your mind's gonna take you back there and gonna try to hold you back there. So I understand, and I thank you for saying that, because we all have, like I had told Rev and everyone years ago, you always have things in your mind, and spiritual things in your mind. One be telling you one thing, and the other be telling you something else, but they still you. There ain't no one else. I mean, the things on the outside would try to tempt you or have you pulled that way, but the ones on the inside is more dangerous than anything else. And that's how I saw it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
I
Monique.
think some goes back to those lessons we talked about, operating in our higher and lower self.
Yeah.
All that is connected.
But you actually said those words, and for the last 2 days, that's what we've been talking about, and that's what we've been saying. But you actually said the words, just like you go to a doctor or go to someone to get help for your physical body and to get checkups. The mental part of you is just as important, and as a culture, as a people, that's not something we've been taught to do. You won't it's something you keep within, those thoughts and feelings that are uh mental. There's not never really been an outlet for us to do that. And if you think about it from a really higher place, can we also say what we're doing is venting and exhaling for the ancestors who had nobody to go to, who had nobody to express themselves to, except each other. So this is not only therapeutic for us and those that are coming behind us, but this present moment is affects all of mankind. So anyone else?
Good morning, everyone. Whoever was speaking, go ahead. Oh, no. You can go ahead. Please forgive me.
No. I just want to say, I want to go back to what Kathy had said yesterday also. I thought about this as well. How she and Pastor went to this psychiatric ward, and they went there to help this young lady who was battling with the multiple personalities and what had happened to her in that setting. And she said that when they walked in, this guy walked up to them and he's saying, "What are you doing here?" And I thought about the scripture that says when Jesus went somewhere, they were saying, "Jesus, what are you doing here? Our time has not come yet." So does that scripture have something to do with she and Pastor bringing the light in there or their energy in there, and the demon, which is the thoughts, we know that those are thoughts, they recognized the light that was in them, their energy. Does that have something to do with that scripture as well? That's my question.
Sounds
Grand
like it.
Rising,
Yeah.
Grand Rap. I'm sorry, Ron. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, what would you feel like addressing that? But it sounds like it to me, but go ahead. Yeah.
It really does. I hadn't thought of that, Evelyn, the way you're saying it, but I really believe that is right, because I think and someone correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking that scripture that you're referencing is when Jesus cast the demons into the swine, and when the demons were in the man, and I'm just saying what the scripture says here, and he was like, "What are you doing here? Have you come to torment me before my time?" Because they didn't want to leave the body of this individual. I had not even thought of that, Evelyn, but I really believe that is correct. And that's why I said I am more convinced now more than ever that darkness, light always penetrates darkness. We've said that, and we've taught that. But I guess until 20 years later, here we are talking about it now, that's the first time that I've understood spiritually what really happened that day. Because we didn't know 20 years ago what we are learning now. And to understand now that even in the midst of darkness, because what I didn't describe walking in, yeah, there were some people aimlessly wandering who were just out of their heads, but they were not dangerous, and they were permitted to wander the halls, but you could hear the screaming out, those being tormented. It was not a place where, like you saw on TV, everyone's in their room and everything is silent, and everyone is just being treated and being taken care of that way. These individuals were in torment. And when you're talking about the voices in your head, we always have voices. Where the problem comes in is when they begin to duel with the identity of who we are. And when Ron asked his question earlier about are these things happening, and like the war he saw, that we launched the war and all, I was looking at Romans, I think it's somewhere in Romans 8, where it talks about all of creation is in mourning, waiting for us to recognize who we are as the sons, and to claim our bodies and our spiritual bodies and understanding of who we are. I say, yes, all of these things are happening for that reason. And the torment of the mind, I listened to Monique talk about someone 20 years old thinking that they have not achieved anything. And as I began to, and I'm not in the school setting anymore, I'm not in that arena anymore, but I look at life, and I'm beginning to look at, even with this next generation, and I call them the XYZ because I don't ever know which one we're in. I just said the alphabet generation, where we are now. Even as babies, parents have this pressure on them that your baby needs to reach a certain benchmark by 9 months or your baby isn't thriving. So even from the womb now, this generation is being pushed to achieve more, to do more. All of these things are external. This generation is not being pushed to tap inside themselves and to know who they are. So they're looking to social media, they're looking to all of these different platforms to find their identity. And then when they are not, at 20 years old, I've heard people at 60, 70, and older say, I've lived my life and I didn't accomplish what I'd hoped to accomplish. But it is rare to hear someone at 20 years old to think their life is over and they're a failure. But it's the pressure of what's going on. And I say, and as I was leaving the school system, I was always amazed at how many children we had. It increased like 100%, it seems like. More psychotic children on medication and having to have therapy and different things going on. And I didn't fully understand now until I'm standing back and looking back at everything. It's a lot of pressure. And to be able to give yourself positive affirmations and to give yourself the self-talk, to do the work to change, it's got to be internal, but it's got to be someone when you don't know you need it from an internal place. Like Monique said, she recommended the external approach. Let's start with counseling. And hopefully that counselor will be worth the salt to say, let me help you. What are you willing to do to work to achieve either these goals that you're setting for yourself
or to see if these are even realistic goals for you, and to kind of lead them and help them to lead themselves to that understanding of maybe this isn't even realistic. Maybe this isn't even what I'm supposed to do. But we have a whole generation now that looks for gratification externally, not knowing that the wealth of who they are is on the inside of them. And so I said a lot because I was thinking a lot of things about everything I'm hearing this morning. But going back to your original question, Evelyn, I definitely see that. And I definitely see that creation is mourning. Everything is happening around us. We're having more people to just be able to say, I'm needing this help. And starting this journey, because we're on this journey. We're putting this in the macro. If we're talking about bringing balance and harmony to humanity, it's got to start with those who know thyself. And in knowing ourselves, we've reached that place of equilibrium and balance on the inside of ourselves, understanding that it's because of who we are spiritually. Because the world externally would tell me a whole lot of things I need to do to be balanced. And they war with one another because these things aren't congruent and don't align. And if I'm chasing this and chasing that and chasing after these things to bring inner peace and balance, I get more agitated and more confused when these things don't happen. And it's not a lot, but the world is going to tell you, look inside of yourself. It takes a spiritual man in the earth standing in the gap to help lead you by putting things in the macro and to talk to you and being the example and being real, like we are on the phone, being open and honest and real about our journeys and what we're dealing with. That's what precipitates the change that we're looking for. And I just wanted to share that. And thank you, George, for letting me answer that question and going before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anything to add on before we go to George? Anyone? Okay. Floor is yours, George.
Good morning, still morning. Good morning, everyone. I didn't hear all of what Miss Barbara said, yet I did hear the latter part, yet I heard everything Mr. GC out of Philly said, and I was glad to hear that he sought out therapy and he even questioned, look, I ain't going to talk to no one. I'm fine. It was just good to hear another person who I look up to say that. And one of the things that I will suggest to all of us is you have to have a recovery system in self-care. And recovery systems, some are healthy, some are not healthy. When people get depressed, some people shop, eating disorder, porn disorder, stuff godly people do. So having a recovery system is real important to me. And it may be just having a conversation with someone. That's always been therapeutic for me, whether we agree, whether we disagree. With Monique has to have a recovery system in dealing with me. And whenever I get up under her skin, she'll go Goodwill shopping. I mean, spend 4-5 hours, maybe even more, and she'll come back home and make some banana pudding. So in our self-care, if you don't have a recovery system, please try to develop a recovery system. Another thing that I will add, that in therapy, one of the things that I have done when I go to a therapist, I tell them out the gate, this is what I'm expecting. I like to be engaged. And after the first 2 sessions, if I'm not being engaged, I don't mind telling them, hey, this ain't working. We're not jiving together. Thank you for being a part of the process. System, and when dealing with a therapist, let the therapist know this is what I expect out of you. If you like to be engaged, you need to tell that therapist, hey, I like to be engaged. And I like to peel as much of these layers back as possible. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I certainly hope that this has been enlightening to everyone, and if the need arises, guys, we can do this as often as necessary. Feel free to pick up the phone and call somebody. But I like the group thing. This has been great to me, getting feedback from everybody. I love your questions, I'll be the first to say, I think I said this yesterday, as Barb said today, I too am mentally ill. I recognize that. I've known that for quite a while now, just not knowing what to do with it. But have realized for quite some time now that I have been out of balance. I'll say it like that. So this has been awesome to me. But I don't want to cut it off as if someone else wants to express themselves or have a question.
Ron, this is Evelyn. One more thing. I yield, Sheldon.
You can go ahead.
Just for you, Sheldon. No, I was just going to ask Kathy. Okay, baby. I was going to ask Kathy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Kathy, did that gentleman or the people who were in there, did they see a part of them, the essence of them in you and Pastor when y'all walked in that facility? Did they see their light as well? I'm just hoping maybe after you guys left or while you were there was some exchange of energy.
I would like to hope so, but I never saw evidence of that, because even when we came out of the young lady's room, because she was in a room, she was not permitted to wander because she was in a pretty bad state. We never saw him again. And it was almost like he was there to bring a message to us. And like I said, didn't know what that message even meant until here we are today talking about it. And I'm reflecting on it now. That was a life lesson that has just been in me, and I didn't even know what to do with that because I didn't even know what it meant until now when we're looking at it and seeing that, wow, light does really penetrate darkness. And so I would like to think that the energy we took in there, because it certainly changed that young lady's life, and she was out by the end of the week and went home and never went back into, as far as I know, into a facility like that, because like I said, I really didn't know her. I had never met her. And I would like to think that the encounters that we have with people as part of our journey, it means something. Because for him to come up, I want to believe, Evelyn, and like I said, I have no proof of this, but I want to believe that encounter awakened something in him too. Because if you are and that's a term that we say a lot of times, or people say when they're you've heard people say, I'm in a dark state, I'm in a dark place, I'm having dark thoughts. If he were in a place shrouded in darkness and could see the light, I want to believe that light penetrated something deep enough in him that he wanted to continue to seek that light. And so without having, like I said, any real proof of that, I believe that encounter was for both of us, for all of us, all three of us who were involved in that encounter. And I want to think and hope that it did. And that gives me hope that in working with others who may be in a dark place, and I'm using that term because that's how people sometimes really feel, that I'm having dark thoughts, that I'm in a dark place. I would hope that the light that we are will penetrate that and help them too. And I believe, I don't just hope, I believe and I know that the light has the ability to do that. And I'm just going to say I hope that was the case for him, and I'm going to leave it at that because I can't say definitively if it did, but I really believe in my heart that it did.
And you also spoke about the quickening yesterday. I think, did you not speak about the quickening of the spirit or the energy?
I may have, I don't remember
That was
exactly what I said.
That was me, Evelyn.
Okay, because I'm like, I don't remember saying that, but okay, was that you, Audrey?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'll let you address that.
Well, I mean, we all have something inside of us that allows us to connect to the spirit when it resonates with us. So that is the quickening, when the spirit resonates with us, or the light resonates with us, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's the quickening.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Evelyn?
Yes, sister. Thank you. Thank you, Aud.
Yeah, anytime something resonates with us, that is the quickening, because we feel it, we understand it, we know it, and that is it. That's the resonation, is the quickening.
Thank you. I'm done, Sheldon.
You're more than welcome. Okay. All right. I've been hesitant to speak today, not knowing exactly where to start on the original question in regards to the voices. Well, first, with all due respect, I would like for us to move away from mental illness and think of it as more so as recalibrating or growing in understanding, but it's also part of a natural process. As it relates to those voices, everyone, all of us, have hear those voices. We always have heard those voices. We always will hear those voices. Now, what are those voices? Those voices, from a spiritual standpoint, is literally all thoughts of the universe, all thoughts that will exist, all thoughts that have exist, even you yourself, from the future and from the past. Those thoughts are timeless. We, depending on, in a sense, whatever frequency we are, or where we're vibrating, in a sense, and you think about it in terms of drawing things to us, in a sense, I don't want to say bombarded, but we have access to that all the time. And we're turning it off something that depends on where our focus is and things that get through in terms of those voices. Of course, everyone at some particular point struggles with that. When Audrey just mentioned in terms of the quickening and what actually resonates, if you think about it, even if someone is stuck at a certain, let's say, channel, but they have aspirations or just a thought, another channel can come through and it can be quickening and it can actually resonate with them, and they want to change the channel, in a sense. When we talk about putting things in the macro, that is dealing with a concept basically of the universal mind. That which we turn our channels to and turn our focus to then becomes available to everyone. We broadcast out to everyone. Everyone can then turn to that channel and tune in a sense, change their vibration or focus on that channel as well. We do it all the time when we come in the presence of people, when we ourselves are changed by certain people's presence, and in the other way around, we change the presence immediately for those who we come in contact with. The young and the old, and this is part of more so definitely in terms of the elderly, in terms of African traditions, being in contact, when I mention those voices, is also the ancestors. I'm not going to say, because I know someone is thinking, no, the voices I hear sometimes, I know they come from a bad place, they're bad. That can't be my ancestors. You're also hearing the voices from those who may be struggling as well, with whatever they may be dealing with in their life. It's literally everything, all thought. Excuse me if I'm rambling. It's a lot, and I'm trying to put it all together. It is the reason we notice with little kids, they have imaginary friends and things like that. They're more tapped into speaking those voices. They're more tapped into speaking their ancestors and things like that, not so focused on the physical world. And in the same way, we notice as we deal with our very elderly people, as they prepare and get ready for transition, they start to move further and further away from the physical reality, and they may seem absent-minded or in a different world at times. Well, that is what is actually taking place in that transition, even sometimes where Alzheimer's is such, where they're more so in a dream state and they're no longer in this physical world. That also is dealing with voices. That is also dealing with communication with many of those who they have known in the past spiritually and been close to and continue to be close to and communicate with. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say, but I wanted to explain more so what all those voices are, not for us to just shun the voices in a sense, but more so understand what the voices are, just part of universal thought and something that we deal with, everyone deal with in terms of setting our selves and getting to know ourselves better as well. Definitely the idea what Monique was talking about, which can be very confusing, as Audrey was mentioning earlier, in terms of knowing who you are internally and being able to deal with that. In terms of this, I guess, younger people now and with social media and influences and things like that being so prevalent, the idea of that grounding and understanding not coming from within, that self-awareness coming from within, that value system coming from within, but then having to find that elsewhere and believing that I am valuable because other people outside of me see me as valuable, which then just makes the idea of being confused and hearing voices and things like that, being subjugated to those things, can be even worse and harder to actually deal with. Finish at the moment, though, was a lot. Please ask me any questions, if there are any. Thank you.
I do have one, Sheldon. You mentioned the relationship, the voices and the ancestors, and I missed that. Can you go back over that part again, if you don't mind?
I was just simply saying that all communication is done to us in a sense through voices, in terms of, even if it's just the idea of you having a strong feeling, that is communication within that is actually taking place. And I was saying that we hear and pick up on the voices, or more so the thought, the vibration of, in a sense, quote unquote, others, or other voice and communication beyond ourselves. So the thing I was thinking about earlier today, you mentioned community. All those voices that we hear, there are many voices. We are part of a community. There are many voices, but at the same time, collective, all at the same time. We're simply interacting with the universe. That is what we're doing, and we're growing accordingly, the same way that any particular cell in some type of way is affected by all the other cells within that organism. You're never actually alone. You are a part of it and working together along with it in some type of way. That is us. That is who we are. That is how we communicate. This how is mentioned that ancestors have always been there. We've always been guided. We always been looked out upon. All of that was taking place, regardless if we consciously knew from like a knowledge and we could actually explain it, was actually going on. A baby or a child cannot explain anything, but that doesn't make their experience any less real. We're just only understanding it, and at this particular moment, hopefully not just intellectualizing it, but actually saying it from a point where it is grasped and understood and felt, not just something that is postulated in the brain.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question, Ron?
Yes, sir, you did. I had not
I feel
thought about it like that.
okay.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Anyone, any other question on anything Sheldon said? Wow. Any questions on any of this? Any of this discussion from the last 2 days? Okay. Well, maybe it's a good place to pause and reflect and see where we are. Okay. I've enjoyed
I'm
this.
joking when I say this, Ron. Ron, I'm joking when I say this. I did not mean for y'all to just stop talking now.
I'd like to add and emphasize, and I agree 100% to with Sheldon, is that moving away from the language mental illness
Yeah.
is really important because it's our mental health. And when you attach illness to it, it brings on a very negative energy, and it's been framed, but it's our mental health, our physical health, our mental health, our spiritual health. And we just got to move to having those all be, they all work in tandem with each other.
Yeah. Thank you. Very well said.
Very important part. Thank you so much for that correction and that clarity.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Don't forget about George. Don't forget about George.
Did we leave a
He
question?
got a question.
George, you have a question?
He probably off.
He got off, yeah. I thought we came back to him though. Okay. Well, we'll pick up there tomorrow then. I thought we came back to him, but we'll start there tomorrow. No problem. I feel good. I feel lighter. I thank you guys. I thank you guys. I needed this. So if there are no other questions and or comments, I hope everybody has a great day. And I look forward to tomorrow evening. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.